To save my cousin who had kidney failure, my father tried to force me to donate one of mine. In the end, my cousin took my spot at a top-tier university and went on to make six figures a year. I was left with a weakened body, working dead-end jobs until I collapsed from exhaustion. While I was in the hospital, my cousin sent me $200 through Venmo, then blocked my number. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the eve of my cousin's surgery. My father was on his knees in the front yard, in front of the whole town, begging me. "I'm on my knees, son. Please, I'm begging you. Save your cousin." I felt nothing. This time around, I was done with family. It felt like the entire population of Blackwood Creek was crowded around our front lawn. Thump! My father dropped to his knees right in front of me, his voice thick with manufactured tears. "Caleb, I'm begging you. Please, save your cousin Nate. If something happens to him, what will it do to your grandma? It'll kill her." The neighbors were murmuring, a low buzz of gossip. A father on his knees to his own son. Dan North will stoop to anything. How's a kid supposed to say no to that? Mark my words, Caleb's about to lose a kidney. Where's Rick, anyway? His own kid is about to go under the knife. Where the hell is he? Same place he always is. Drunk at a poker table, losing money he doesn't have. My father's public spectacle was the equivalent of holding my feet to the fire. If I agreed, I'd lose a kidney. If I refused, after my own father kneeled to me, I'd be a social outcast. In a town like this, where family and respect are everything, I'd be crucified. My father's eyes were red as he stared at me, filled with a desperate hope. The neighbors looked on with pity. In this situation, my agreement was supposed to be a foregone conclusion. Too bad for them. I've done this before. Under the watchful eyes of the entire town, I didn't help my father up. Instead, I pulled over a small plastic stool we used for gardening and sat down. "I didn't ask you to kneel," I said calmly. "That was your choice." My father's face was a mask of disbelief. He couldn't comprehend why his usually obedient son hadn't rushed to his side. Why didn't he help me up? Why did he just sit down? A wave of shocked whispers went through the crowd. They hadn't expected this either. For me to just sit there and calmly accept my own father's debasement. The seconds ticked by, and the chatter grew louder. I thought Caleb was a quiet, bookish kid. He's acting like some kind of delinquent. He's young. Maybe the shock of someone wanting to carve him up got to him. It happens. Dan North puts a lot of stock in honoring your father. Caleb defying him like this. He's going to get the beating of his life. They were all here for the show, and I, sitting on my stool, gave him one. My father's expression turned to panic. He shuffled forward on his knees and gripped my legs. "Caleb, I'm begging you. You won't die from donating one kidney. Please, save Nate." I gently pushed his hand away. Two words fell from my lips, cold as ice. "No way." "What?" My father was stunned. "I kneeled to you. Why won't you agree?" He scrambled to his feet, the performance over. He expertly unbuckled his leather belt. "You disrespectful brat. You're asking for it." Before the words were even out of his mouth, the belt was whistling through the air. I caught it mid-swing, my grip firm, and slowly stood up. "I'm grown up, Dad." My voice was steady. "Look, I'm taller than you now. You can't push me around anymore unless I let you." My father trembled with rage. "Fine, you goddamn punk. I'll beat the hell out of you." He tried to wrench the belt from my grasp, but I held it fast. It didn't move an inch. "Let go, you little bastard." His face was beet red, his eyes bulging. Seeing the fight escalate, a few neighbors moved in to break it up. My Uncle Dale was the first to grab me. "You can't fight your own father. Caleb, be smart. Let it go. Don't make a scene for the whole town to see." I looked at him, my expression one of pure surprise. "Make a scene? Who do you think called the whole town here in the first place?" My father's face paled. "So what if I did? The Norths are a family, and this town is our community. We discuss things together. What's wrong with that?" My voice turned sharp. "Getting on your knees to blackmail your son in front of everyone. You call that a discussion?" My father was speechless. Uncle Dale couldn't stand it. "Even if your dad was a little out of line, you should show him some respect. Besides, Nate is in critical condition. It's just one kidney. When he's out of the hospital, he'll be grateful to you. Just one kidney. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one going under the knife. And as for Nate being grateful, I knew better than that. In my last life, the height of his gratitude was a $200 Venmo payment before he blocked me." I laughed. "You know, Uncle Dale, you're right. Family helps family. Why don't we have your son Dylan donate a kidney? I'm sure Nate will be just as grateful to him. Uncle Dale looked at me, horrified. Caleb, how can you say something so vicious? Dylan is only 19. He has his whole life ahead of him. You can't just ask him to give up a kidney. Vicious. Me. What about him trying to convince me to give up my own kidney? Was that not vicious? I'm only 18. I shot back. I'm a year younger than Dylan. He has his whole life ahead of him. But I'm supposed to just what? Throw mine away. Uncle Dale scowled. When did you learn to talk back like this? Seeing me argue with my uncle sent my father over the edge. He dropped the belt, stormed into the house, and came back out with a heavy wooden rolling pin. He pointed it at me. Apologize to your uncle. Right now. And let me make one thing crystal clear, he roared. You're donating that kidney. Whether you want to or not, it's happening. I had always been at the bottom of the totem pole in this family. My father's default response to me was a yell, and any hint of defiance was met with his fists or a belt. Now, I had publicly humiliated him and talked back to his brother. His rage was about to boil over. Uncle Dale took a step back, putting on a show of fake concern. Dan, don't be too hard on him. He's just a kid. Teach him a lesson, but don't go overboard. Hearing Dale call me disrespectful only fueled my father's fire. The rolling pin was raised high, ready to come crashing down on me. Uncle Dale watched from the side, a smug look on his face. Just as he swung, I ducked out of the way and pulled out my phone. I dialed 911. Hello, I need the police. My life is in danger. Someone's trying to harvest my organ. Yes, I'm at the North Residence in Blackwood Creek. No one expected me to call the cops over a family dispute. The situation exploded. Neighbors swarmed in, holding my father back. Under their reluctant persuasion, he finally lowered the rolling pin, squatting down to smoke a cigarette, defeated. He kept shooting me confused looks, as if trying to figure out how I'd become a completely different person overnight. The gossip mill started up again. Caleb, you shouldn't have done that. It's a family matter. Why would you call the police? Exactly. Airing our dirty laundry like this. What will people think? I don't know, this isn't a small thing. Maybe calling the cops was the right move. And Dan, I have to say, this whole kidney thing shouldn't fall on Caleb. She's right. Rick's a deadbeat, but now his son is dying. He can't pay for it. Fine, but he can't even give up one of his own kidneys. That's not right. The sheriff's deputies arrived quickly. A dozen different versions of the story flew at them from all sides, but they pieced it together. One of the deputies looked at my father, his face a mixture of shock and disgust. Sir, is Caleb your biological son? My father's face was flush with anger and humiliation. Of course he is. So what if I asked him to donate a kidney? What's the big deal? The deputy just shook his head and gave my father a long, stern lecture on U.S. federal law regarding organ donation. And organ donation must be 100% voluntary. Do you understand? After the impromptu legal lesson, the deputies left. The show was over, and the neighbors drifted back to their own homes. The house fell silent. Then my phone rang. It was my Uncle Joe, my mom's brother. Caleb, I heard what your father is trying to do. Listen to me. This will affect you for the rest of your life. You cannot, under any circumstances, agree to this. A warmth spread through my chest. In my last life, Uncle Joe had called and said the same thing. But back then, I was trapped by a misguided sense of family loyalty and didn't listen. After I donated the kidney, he came to the house and raised hell, but it was too late. Later, when I gave up my college spot, he was so furious he cut ties with me completely. If I'd had his help, my last life might not have been so miserable. Don't worry, Uncle Joe, I said. I won't agree. He sounded relieved and finally hung up. That evening, my Uncle Rick, Nate's father, came home beaming. He threw his arms around my dad first. Dan, thank you, brother. Then he clapped me on the shoulder. Don't you worry, kid. Once your cousin Nate is out of the hospital, he'll be forever grateful. He clearly thought this was a done deal. Unfortunately for him, he was met with a wall of stony silence. Rick's smile faltered. He looked at my grandmother. Mom, what's going on? I thought we had this all worked out. Grandma's face was grim. She turned to me. Caleb, why don't you think about it some more? You have 2 kidneys. You won't die if you give one up. I ignored her. Instead, I reached across the table, took the entire platter of pot roast from in front of her, and dumped it onto my own plate. Then I started eating without a word. Grandma slammed her chopsticks down on the table, furious. What a disgrace to this family. No conscience and no manners either. A grown boy eating like a pig with no respect for his elders. My father slammed his own bowl down. What the hell is wrong with you today? It's like everything I ever taught you went in one ear and out the other. I'm a growing boy. I said simply, I need protein. That was for your grandmother. Don't you know to respect your elders? Why can Nate eat it, but I can't? I challenged. My father's face darkened. I bought that meat to honor your grandmother. Who she shares it with is her decision. How dare you go against your elders' wishes? My father stood up. In this house, we value respect. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'm failing you as a father. And since this is just a father disciplining his son, even the cops can't do anything but give me a slap on the wrist. My Uncle Rick went to the fireplace and came back with a heavy iron poker. Here you go, Dan. Spare the rod. Spoil the child. You can't go soft on him. My expression was one of genuine surprise. You all seem to think that just because my mom's gone, I have no one left to stand up for me, don't you? With that, I dial my Uncle Joe's number. They won't let me eat, and now they're all about to beat me. Uncle Joe, I miss my mom. I hung up. The room was dead silent. A few years ago, my dad had hit my mom. Uncle Joe showed up with a group of his friends and beat the living daylights out of my father and Rick. They were still terrified of him. Hearing my words, my father dropped the poker as if it were electric. Caleb, what are you talking about? I was trying to teach you, not beat you. I glanced at the poker on the floor. You have a unique way of teaching. My father said nothing. Rick gave a nervous laugh, looked around, and threw on his coat. I'm heading out for a game of cards. Don't wait up. He was gone. Grandma's face was pale. You're a North. No matter how bad things get in this family, you don't bring outsiders into it. My Aunt Sharon, Rick's wife, looked at me sourly. Caleb, your mother died in that car accident 2 years ago. For 2 years, I'm the one who's been cooking for you. I scoffed. Aunt Sharon, you get paid $1,500 a month for that. And all of your family's expenses, including Nate's hospital bills, are you paying for that with your own money? This whole family has been living off the settlement money from my mother's death, and you begrudge me a piece of meat. Do you have any shame? A flicker of guilt crossed my father's face. Your mother. At the end of the day, she was a North. I threw my hands up. So that gives you the right to spend her money and abuse her son? Don't tell me. Wait until my uncle gets here. You could try that line on him. Maybe he'll buy it. My father's voice was tight with suppressed rage. This family put you through high school. How can you be so ungrateful? I didn't even look up. You wouldn't have paid for my schooling if Uncle Joe hadn't come and made you. At the mention of Uncle Joe again, a look of fear crossed Grandma's face. Caleb, call your uncle right now. Tell him not to come. Tell him it was all a misunderstanding. I grinned. Too late. He should be here any minute. Soon enough, we heard a truck pull into the driveway. Uncle Joe stormed in and immediately pulled me behind him. He gestured for my father to come forward. Dan, a word. My father stepped forward, his face a grim mask. This is North family business, Joe. Are you sure you want to interfere? Uncle Joe lit a cigarette. When it involves carving up my nephew, it's not just your family's business. It's mine, and I don't approve. And you won't even feed him? The biggest tragedy of his life is that his last name is North. I tug on my uncle's arm. Actually, it doesn't have to be. What? Uncle Joe spun around, his mouth agape in surprise. The cigarette fell from his lips unnoticed. Caleb, you finally see it. After the hell I lived through in my past life, of course I saw it. Yeah, I want to take my mom's name. I want to be a chun. My father's face contorted in fury. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You traitor, you ungrateful traitor. I'll kill you. But with Uncle Joe standing there, he didn't dare charge at me. All he could do was stand there and rage impotently, screaming traitor over and over. Uncle Joe winced at the noise and put his arm around my shoulder. Let's get away from these people. You're coming with me, right now. I shook my head. Not yet. My uncle's face fell. Don't tell me you still feel something for this family. Not a chance. But before I leave, I'm getting my mom's money back. Perhaps because Uncle Joe hadn't gotten physical this time, Grandma and Aunt Sharon grew bolder. Hearing me mention the money, they both started in. Grandma, money? Absolutely not. Nate is still in the hospital. He's the future of this family. What's wrong with using her money for him? She was a North. Her money is the North family's money. Aunt Sharon. Caleb, how can you be so cruel? Can't you just let your cousin be? My father, wary of my uncle, turned his pleading eyes on me. Caleb, we're all family. Why are you doing this to your cousin? He's seriously ill. Without that money, he could die. I'm begging you, let go. My father's voice was soft, his posture humble. Uncle Joe's expression tightened. He watched me nervously, afraid I might cave to the emotional blackmail. He didn't know that my father had already tried kneeling to me earlier that day. I looked at my dad with mock confusion. Anyone who didn't know better would think Nate was your son, not me. My words must have hit a nerve. My father froze, unable to say a word. Aunt Sharon lowered her head, wiping away fake tears as she retreated into the living room. Uncle Joe was silent for a moment, then he looked at me. Go wait for me in the truck. I'll handle the money. 10 minutes later, he came out, his face like a thundercloud. As he'd gotten older, he'd become less impulsive. He hadn't laid a hand on them, but because of that, he'd lost the argument. In the truck, he was still fuming. The Norths have no shame. They just flat out refuse to give back the money. He glanced at me, then quickly added, When I say the Norths, I don't mean you. Don't worry, Caleb. I give you my word, we'll get that money back. I just said, my name is Chun now. That finally brought a smile to his face. That's great. Let's go home. I called your aunt, and she's making a big dinner. Your cousin hasn't even started her homework. She's waiting for you to help her. But don't you pay her any mind. You just focus on studying. The SATs are just around the corner. Leaving the North House felt like breathing fresh air for the first time. As the memories of my past life fully merged with the present, all the questions from the SATs I'd once studied for came flooding back, crystal clear. The test would be a breeze. My aunt was wonderful to me. She would often look at me with tears in her eyes, saying how sorry she was for what I'd been through. She'd even come to my room at night to tuck me in, worried I'd get cold. She reminded me so much of my mother. Every day at my uncle's house was a happy one. As the SATs approached, my father and Uncle Dale found me at school. Your Uncle Rick got set up in a poker game, my father said, getting straight to the point. They're holding him until he pays up. Call your Uncle Joe, tell him to pull some strings and get Rick out. The sheer entitlement in his voice was almost funny. His son is waiting for a transplant, and he's out gambling. He deserved to get caught. Besides, what does this have to do with my Uncle Joe? Why should he have to pull any strings for him? My father's voice was tight with anger. Stop asking stupid questions and do what I say. That's your uncle they're holding. I shook my head. He's not my uncle, and I'm not a North anymore. Hearing this, my father's demeanor bizarrely shifted to one of arrogance. It's not impossible for you to come back to the family. Get this business with your uncle sorted out, then donate the kidney to your cousin. I can approve your return to the North family. Wait, who said I wanted to return? My aunt's cooking was 1,000 times better than anything at that house. Why would I ever want to go back to watch my grandmother eat pot, roast while I got the scraps? I shook my head and started to walk away. My father, clearly not expecting this reaction, looked stunned. Uncle Dale quickly grabbed my arm, his face a mask of disbelief. What's wrong with you? Your father is offering to let you back into the family. What more do you want? Don't tell me you think one stupid kidney is more important than being a North. His words were laughable. Why on earth would they think their family name was worth more than one of my vital organs? I pulled my arm free and walked away without looking back. Dale was still shouting after me. Your cousin is running out of time. This is your only chance to come back. If you walk away now, even if your father changes his mind, your Uncle Rick and I will never let you back in. I didn't turn around. I headed straight for my next class. The North family drama wasn't worth another second of my time. That night, my aunt, not wanting to disturb my studies, took my cousin and went out after dinner. My father showed up at my uncle's house with Rick and my grandmother in tow. I was surprised to see Rick. Weren't they holding him over a gambling debt? How did he get out so fast? Rick spoke first. Caleb, on behalf of your cousin, I want to apologize. He was wrong to take everything for himself all those years. As long as you donate your kidney to him, I promise you from now on, you two will split the pot roast 50-50. Half the pot roast. I was so stunned I almost laughed. Uncle Rick, let me get this straight. I give him a kidney, and in return, he'll let me have half of his pot roast. Is that the deal? Rick's face soured with impatience. Fine, fine, you win. I'll make him promise. For now on, all the pot roast is yours. But you have to go to the hospital for the surgery. Today. The sheer shamelessness of it was breathtaking. Before I could even respond, my grandmother cut in, scolding him. Absolutely not. He will have no such thing. Half is more than generous. I almost burst out laughing. This family was truly one of a kind. What made them think that slightly improving their abusive treatment of me would be enough to make me give up a kidney for my cousin? And what made them think that just because my uncle didn't beat them up last time, they could show up here and push their luck? I waved a dismissive hand. Thanks, but no thanks. My aunt makes me pot roast every other day. When I think about it, giving up a kidney just for an extra helping of food doesn't seem like a very good deal. I was about to shut the gate when my father stepped in front of me. He had a pained expression on his face, as if this was costing him dearly. I bought your cousin the new iPhone last month. You always wanted one, right? If you go save him today, I promise when you get out of the hospital, I'll buy you one just like it. I looked at him surprised. Wow, you're so generous with your actual son. But really, it's not necessary. Mine already bought me one. See, it's the latest model. I pulled out my phone and gave it a little wave. You should all go home. And please, take good care of my cousin. Since you're all here begging me, I'm guessing he's running out of time, isn't he? Make sure he gets some good food. By now, my father's eyes landed on my phone, and his expression soured. Caleb, you're still young. You don't understand how manipulative people can be. You let them buy you with a simple phone. Your uncle's family is trying to steal you away to destroy the North family line. Don't fall for it. I'll make an exception and let you rejoin the family. Otherwise, not only will you be barred from the family plot when you die, you won't even have a place to go for Christmas dinner. My voice went cold. Who said I wanted to be buried in your family plot? My name is Chen now. I'll be buried with the Chens. And since you brought up Christmas, let's talk about that. At Christmas dinner, you give Nate $1,000, and you give me a handful of peanuts. What's the point of even showing up? My father paused for a moment. I've taught you since you were a child not to be so focused on money. You were learning so well. What happened to you? Please, I had a whole extra lifetime of experience. If I still fell for his gaslighting, I'd be doomed to repeat my past mistakes. My patience was wearing thin. Stop with the empty platitudes. If you all don't care about money so much, then give me back my mother's settlement. My father's voice was tight with anger. That's completely different. That money is to save your cousin's life. You can't compare the two. I held up a hand, cutting him off. I don't have a cousin. My mother only had one child. Stop trying to invent relatives for me. Now go home, and don't bring up the kidney donation again. With that, I turned to go back inside, done with the conversation. Seeing that I was completely immune to her persuasion, my grandmother's face darkened. She pointed a trembling finger at me. You wicked child, to stand by and watch someone die. So cruel. Nate is in the hospital waiting for you. The two of you, if you have to tie him up, you will drag him to that hospital today. With her blessing, my father and uncle no longer hesitated. They lunged at me. In a struggle, I was outnumbered 2-1 and quickly lost the upper hand. Just as I was forced to the ground, thinking I was done for, I heard a series of loud thuds from above, followed by cries of pain. The weight on top of me vanished. My father and uncle were on the ground, clutching their arms and groaning. My Uncle Joe dropped the wooden plank he was holding and rushed to help me up. He checked me over, and after seeing I only had a few scrapes, he relaxed and turned his attention to my father and uncle. But the two of them, along with my grandmother, had already scrambled away. I let out a sigh of relief, then suddenly felt my pocket was lighter. The new iPhone my aunt had given me was gone. We couldn't find it in the yard. Uncle Joe tried calling my number, but it went straight to voicemail. Don't worry, he said, trying to calm me down. We have a security camera in the yard. We'll check the footage. We'll find it. And even if we don't, I'll buy you a new one. The security footage revealed everything. As my uncle Rick pinned me down, he had quickly slipped the phone out of my pocket and into his own. That was straight up robbery. But then again, it wasn't surprising. They were willing to kidnap me. Stealing a phone was nothing. As I saved a copy of the evidence, a grin spread across Uncle Joe's face. Perfect. We can finally get all the money back. I've been trying everything. I managed to get back $200,000 today, but I thought the rest was a lost cause. And now this. It's like they're begging to get caught. That old woman, his mother, dotes on him. With this footage, they'll have no choice but to pay up. 2 years ago, when my mother died in a car accident, the settlement was $600,000. Uncle Joe's family wanted to take me in, but my father, greedy for the money, fought tooth and nail for custody. I had assumed that Uncle Joe had only managed to get back a few tens of thousands. I had no idea he'd already recovered $200,000. He was more capable than I thought. The next morning, after giving me a few instructions, Uncle Joe took the evidence to the sheriff's office. When he returned, he cooked a huge celebratory meal. Robbery with a high-value item and clear evidence. As long as you don't agree to a settlement, he's looking at up to 3 years in prison. Now, all we have to do is be patient and wait for the North family to come to us with the money. Caleb, whatever you do, don't go soft on them. You understand. I nodded seriously. He didn't need to tell me. Any shred of sympathy for that family would make my rebirth a complete waste. With Rick in county jail and my father held for questioning, the family was in chaos. On the first day of my final exams, as I was leaving the school, my grandmother and Uncle Dale were there waiting for me. Grandma, he is your elder. How could you be so cruel as to have him arrested? Dale, just sign the settlement papers. Once they're out, I can put in a good word for you. Otherwise, your father will disown you for good. Me, I didn't get them arrested. They broke the law, and the police arrested them. Grandma, law. Is that all you care about? Have you no sense of family? The biggest mistake your father ever made was raising you. Me, you can't blame him for that. He barely ever held me as a child. My mother raised me. Grandma, your mother has been dead for 2 years. For the last 2 years, the North family has been supporting you. Me, don't make yourself sound so noble. You only fought for custody because of my mother's settlement money. Everything I've eaten and used for the past 2 years was paid for by her. I haven't cost you a single penny. Grandma's tone softened. Caleb, there's no need for things to be this ugly between family. You've lived in our house for 2 years. Just sign the papers, go to the hospital, and save your cousin. Once he's better, we can all be a happy family again. Wouldn't that be nice? A happy family. In my past life, no one in that house ever treated me like family. Me, I don't understand why you keep pushing me to donate a kidney. If Nate needs a kidney, why doesn't his own father, my Uncle Rick, donate one? A father saving his son, that's how it should be. Grandma, don't say that. How could you even think such a thing? Your uncle is an elder. As the younger generation, it is your duty to shoulder the burdens of your elders. Dale sighed. The settlement is secondary. Your cousin Nate's condition can't wait. Go to the hospital first. Donate the kidney. You can sign the papers after the surgery. I looked at Dale, a strange thought occurring to me. Grandma has always favored Uncle Rick, so I can understand her position. But you, Uncle Dale, you've always been unhappy with her favoritism. You even moved your family out. Why are you so involved in this? What's in it for you? Nate isn't your son. Aren't you overstepping a bit? Dale froze for a second. Then his voice suddenly rose. Nate is my nephew. Is it wrong for me to care about him? I couldn't be sure, but it seemed like he was hiding something. My Aunt Sharon was a very beautiful woman. Could there be something between her and Dale? But that didn't make sense, because if I had to suspect someone, it would be my own father. Otherwise, none of this could be explained. His obsessive concern for Nate went far beyond normal. Favoritism was one thing, but being willing to force his own son to donate a kidney was completely irrational. The whole situation was bizarre, and I couldn't make sense of it. Me, if you want me to donate a kidney, you can forget it. As for signing the settlement, I'll consider it after you return my mother's money. With that, I turned to leave. Grandma grabbed my arm. Fine. You want the money back, no problem. Just sign the papers first. Me, money first. Grandma, I'm your grandmother. Would I lie to you? Dale, you're a North. You have North blood in your veins. Don't you have even a basic level of trust in us? Trust? Hilarious. After everything they had done to me, they wanted to talk about trust. It was precisely because they were the North family that I didn't trust them. Me, cut the crap. Either you pay me, or you get lost. Hearing this, both of their faces changed. Dale, who do you think you're talking to? You little punk. We are your elders. Who are you telling to get lost? Grandma, I told your father long ago, spare the rod and spoil the child. He was too soft on you. That's why you have no manners. These two, acting as if they were on some moral high ground. They had no intention of actually negotiating. Did they really think I was still the same kid they could push around? I had completely lost my patience. Ignoring their shouting, I quickly left the school grounds. The deputies were still nearby, maintaining order, so while they were furious, they didn't dare try to physically stop me. They could only watch as I walked away. The next day, my exams were over. I had aced them. As I walked out of the school, confident and calm, my Uncle Joe and his family were there waiting for me. When we got back to their house, we found Uncle Dale waiting at the gate. He was there to return the money. If they didn't, Rick was going to be sentenced. He was Grandma's precious baby, her favorite. The family had no choice but to pay up. To make sure everything was legally sound, Uncle Joe insisted we go to the sheriff's office. With a deputy as a witness, I signed the settlement agreement. Dale transferred the remaining $400,000 to my account. Uncle Joe also transferred the $200,000 he had previously recovered. "This is what your mother left for you," he said. "No one else has the right to touch it." When Uncle Dale left the station, his face was black with rage. Uncle Joe muttered to himself, confused. Dale has always been one to mind his own business. Why is he so invested in this? He was running around everywhere. He even sold his own car to help cover the debt. Dale's behavior was definitely strange. Even Uncle Joe, an outsider to the North family, could see that something was off. He was clearly hiding something. I remained silent. Having lived this life once before, I was curious to see what this secret was. The exam results came out quickly. I scored a 1580 on my SATs. Essentially, I could take my pick of any school and any major in the country. When it came time to decide, I chose Stanford. Uncle Joe told everyone he met, boasting that the Chun family had finally produced someone successful and that his sister could rest in peace. My aunt was beaming with pride. Life was good for the next few weeks. Then, my cousin Nate was discharged from the hospital. The outcome was something no one expected. The person who had donated a kidney to Nate wasn't his father, Rick. It was my father. In the family group chat, Rick sent a huge digital red envelope to show his gratitude. "That's my big brother for you." Just as I was about to get tested, he stopped me and insisted on donating his own kidney to Nate. "Nate, you have to remember, your Uncle Dan gave you this life. You must honor him for the rest of your days. Don't be like some people who have no sense of family loyalty." My father replied, "We're family, don't talk like that. Nate is my nephew, and don't talk about owing me anything. That just puts pressure on the kid. Let's not mention it again." Nate chimed in, "From now on, Uncle Dan is my second father. Don't worry, I will honor both my dads." Dale added, "Hey kid, what about me? I was running around for you guys. How come I get forgotten?" Aunt Sharon wrote, "Let's stop with all the formal talk. From now on, we are truly one big family." What a beautiful picture of family harmony, brotherly love, and filial piety. Out of sight, out of mind. I silently closed the group chat. But a few moments later, my father called me. His tone was as entitled as ever. "I heard you got into Stanford. Your guidance counselor called me. In a few days, the local news is coming to do a story, and the school board wants to interview you. This is a huge deal for the North family, so you'll do as I say. Your cousin's grades were never good, and now, because of the surgery, he missed his final exams. You will give your spot to him. Let him do the interview and go to Stanford in your place. When he graduates and becomes successful, he will repay you." Huh, Nate repaying me. In my last life, I gave him a kidney and my spot at a top university. His idea of repayment was $200 and a block number. I had been reborn. I wasn't falling for that lie again. Me, I earned my place at Stanford. If Nate wants to go, fine. Let him retake his senior year and earn himself. Why should I give my spot? My father, I just told you, your cousin isn't smart enough. Even if he repeated a year, he'd never get into Stanford. You're smart. You give him this chance, and you could just apply again next year. It's simple. Give him my spot and apply again next year. He said it so casually. But why should I? Me? What does his academic ability have to do with me? Why should I waste a year of my life for him? My father, for your cousin's surgery, the North family came together and saved him. You are the only one who hasn't contributed to the family. If you give up your spot, the North family will welcome you back. The North family will welcome me back? There was again. Did I ever say I wanted to be welcomed back? Why did he assume that I, like him, saw the North family as the center of the universe. My voice turned cold. I'm sorry, but everyone has to face their own path in life. I will not give up my spot. That would be fraud. It's illegal. With that, I hung up the phone, and I blocked his number. I thought that would be the end of it, but I had underestimated the shamelessness of the North family. On the day I was supposed to go back to school for the interview, my Uncle Rick took Nate and went ahead of me. My head was spinning when my principal called me. Caleb, you need to get to school right now. Your cousin is trying to do the interview with a news station in your place. Nate is doing the interview. What kind of move was that? Did they really think they could force me to give up my spot this way? They were delusional. I rushed to the school. The classroom was buzzing with gossip. What's going on? Wasn't it Caleb who got into Stanford? Why is Nate in the principal's office? He looks sick, and what's with that giant celebratory ribbon on his chest? I bet he's trying to steal the Stanford spot. But is he an idiot? He can't do that without Caleb's consent, right? You never know. What if Caleb agreed? No one could say anything then. If nobody exposes it, they might actually pull it off. They're cousins, they look kind of alike. It's hard to say. Caleb is so quiet. Maybe his family forced him into it. Here comes Caleb. This is about to get interesting. I follow my principal into his office. My Uncle Rick was there, obsequiously offering a cigarette to the school superintendent. He really is Caleb North. He just looks different because he's been so sick. The superintendent didn't take the cigarette. He just turned to the local news reporter next to him. Have you been able to contact the real Caleb North yet? Rick stood there awkwardly, cigarette in hand, not sure whether to offer it again or put it away. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. In my last life, Nate had successfully taken my place at college because I had cooperated. He used my name, and since we looked similar, no one ever found out. This time, there was no way I was going to cooperate. He just showed up at the school, where everyone knew him as Nate. The administrators weren't stupid. They weren't going to fall for it. Not to mention, this was a blatant attempt at identity fraud for a spot at Stanford. It was a serious crime. My principal, catching his breath, introduced me to the superintendent. The superintendent shook my hand warmly and began to discuss the interview. He showed me the list of questions and had me do a quick rehearsal with the reporter. The entire time, my Uncle Rick and Nate were treated like they were invisible. Rick, clearly embarrassed, couldn't help but interrupt our rehearsal. Caleb, Nate's surgery didn't go as well as we'd hoped. His health is poor. I don't think he could handle repeating his senior year. You're so smart. Can't you just give him the chance to go to Stanford? You could just apply again next year. He and my father were two peas in a pod. Their arguments were identical. I wasn't surprised, but everyone else in the room was. They all exchanged shocked glances. A moment ago, they were trying to pull a fast one in secret. That was understandable, in a sleazy, family drama sort of way. But now, with a real person standing right there, they were still brazenly trying to steal his spot at college, right in front of the superintendent. Did they have no respect for the law? I looked at the ridiculous red ribbon on Nate's chest, suppressed a smile, and broke the silence. Nate, you didn't have to do all this. We're brothers. If you wanted to go to Stanford, you should have just told me. Nate's face lit up with surprise. Caleb, are you serious? Rick was ecstatic. That's great, Caleb. You finally came to your senses. You two grew up together. You're like real brothers. I smirked and cut him off. We are real brothers. Nate is my father's son, too. What else would we be? Before Rick could process what I'd said, I unleashed a torrent of words, catching him completely off guard. If he wasn't my father's son, will my dad have tried to make me donate a kidney to him? And when I refused, would my dad have donated his own? Think about it, Uncle Rick. Would a man do that for anyone but his own flesh and blood? As my words sank in, Rick's expression faltered. His face visibly darkened. He looked at Nate with suspicion, and the longer he looked, the more his face contorted with anger. No, that's impossible. Sharon would never cheat on me. I stared directly into Rick's eyes and delivered the final blow. Uncle Rick, you were going to get tested to see if you were a match, but my father stopped you. Have you ever wondered why? Is it possible he already knew your blood type wouldn't match Nate's? Maybe he stopped you because he was afraid you'd find out Nate wasn't your son. Hearing this, Nate turned on me, furious. Uncle Dan is my uncle. Of course he would donate a kidney to me. You have no proof. How can you spread such vicious lies? He said it with such self-righteous indignation. His own father was standing right there, perfectly healthy, Yet he thought it was normal for his uncle to be his organ donor. I didn't have to say another word. Rick was already staring at him with a deep, unsettling gaze. Nate flinched under his stare. "Dad, he's lying. Don't believe him." In front of everyone, Rick ripped the celebratory ribbon off Nate's chest and threw it on the ground. Then, he roughly grabbed a handful of Nate's hair. He paused for a moment, then gently plucked a few strands and clutched them tightly in his hand. "I'm getting a DNA test." With that, he turned and left. Nate hesitated, then looked at me, not following his father. "Are you really my brother? Then, can I have your spot at Stanford?" Seeing my silence, he put on a friendly act and slung his arm around my shoulder. "We have the same dad. We're real brothers. I'm not well right now. You can't just abandon me." My expression was one of pure astonishment. "Your dad is having a breakdown. Aren't you going to go check on him?" Nate's face was a picture of nonchalance. "The most important thing right now is that we've found each other. Who cares about someone I'm not even related to?" So quickly, he had turned his back on the man who had raised him. Everyone in the room was stunned. What was wrong with this kid? A major family drama was unfolding right in front of him, and his first concern wasn't his own parentage. The man he called Dad might not be his father, and all he could think about was getting into Stanford, and to so seamlessly switch allegiances for a college acceptance, it was beyond shameless. Even if that man wasn't his biological father, didn't the years he spent raising him mean anything? But Nate, ever the opportunist, had a will of iron. He completely ignored the scornful looks from everyone in the room. "Little brother, we're family now. Even if I go to Stanford for you, no one could say anything. You go ahead and do the interview. I'll be waiting for you outside." He patted me on the shoulder and walked out of the room, his step visibly lighter. The rest of us just stared at each other, speechless. The cameraman looked at me and broke the silence. Just so, the camera was rolling. I got all of that. It turned out the rehearsal was just a ploy to make me less nervous. They hadn't told me they were already recording. My eyes lit up. "Sir, could I get a copy of that video? I don't need the whole thing, just the part where Nate and I have our little family reunion." After finishing a few retakes, I got the video clip I needed. The principal and my teachers walked me through the rest of the formalities. The school, a local business, and the Stanford Alumni Association all gave me scholarships. All told, it was a significant amount of money. By the time everything was done, it was late afternoon. I walked out of the school completely satisfied. Nate was waiting for me at the gate. He looked frail, and his voice trembled. The surgery didn't go well. The doctor said the kidney was barely a match. If you had taken any longer, I'd be headed back to the hospital. "Brother, what you said earlier about letting me take your spot at Stanford, was that true?" I replied nonchalantly. "Of course not. I worked my ass off for 10 years for this. Why would I just hand it over to you?" With that, I turned and walked away. Thump! I heard Nate fall to the ground behind me. "We're real brothers. You can't just leave me like this. I think I'm dying. Someone, get me to a hospital." I didn't look back. I just walked faster. This time around, the fate of the North family had nothing to do with me. I opened a brokerage account. Using my memories from my past life, I invested in a few stocks that I knew would skyrocket. The capital I had started to grow exponentially. A week went by with no activity in the family group chat, but I knew that beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Nate sent me message after message, trying to appeal to our newfound brotherhood. I ignored them all. Not want to give up, he started calling. I declined every call and then blocked his number. One day, I was checking my portfolio, planning my next move, when the family group chat suddenly came to life. My uncle Rick posted a picture of a DNA test result. Conclusion: the probability of paternity is less than 0.01%. I was right. Nate was not Rick's biological son. The chat exploded. My father: "Rick, why would you post something like this in the group chat? Can a machine make a mistake? Come home." My father: "Answer my call. Even if Nate isn't your biological son, you still raised him. Is blood really that important?" My father: "Your wife left and went back to her mother's because you're ignoring Nate. You need to go apologize and bring her home so you could be a proper family." Uncle Dale: "Your brother is right. Sharon is a good woman. How can you be so petty? Go apologize to her, buy her a gift, and bring her home. And make sure you're sincere about it." The entire North family was frantically searching for Rick, but no one could get in touch with him. The family group chat was filled with daily updates on where to look for him. But he had vanished. He didn't say a word in the chat. It was clear that the news had hit him hard. I ran into Uncle Rick while I was at the farmer's market with Uncle Joe. He was squatting by a dumpster, his clothes torn and filthy, scavenging for food. He looked like he had suffered a complete mental breakdown. The rest of the North clan, including my father, were surrounding him, trying to persuade him to come home. I told Uncle Joe I'd be right back and found an inconspicuous spot around the corner. I could see and hear everything perfectly. My father, what's in the past is in the past. What's the point of dwelling on it? So he's not your biological son. You raised him. Can you really just throw away all those years? You're in North. You should have some backbone. Uncle Dale, Sharon came all this way to find you. For the boy's sake, just apologize to her. She'll forgive you. Right, Sharon? And Sharon. I only made a mistake that any woman could make. If you truly loved me, you would forgive me, not get hung up on irrelevant details. He may not be your son, but he's called you Dad all these years. What more could you want? My father. Everyone just quiet down. Rick, let me give you some advice. You can't live in the past. We're Norths. We have to look to the future. Nate is a grown man. You need to think about his reputation before you do anything rash. My father. Rick, why aren't you saying anything? Nate, come over here and talk to your father. No matter what they said, Rick remained silent. After a long pause, Nate finally spoke. Dad, the man who raises you is more important than the man who sired you. Are you really going to abandon me? Perhaps that phrase, the man who raises you is more important, struck a chord with Rick. He finally spoke, his voice raspy and broken. Nate, you still see me as your dad. Before Nate could answer, he spoke again, his voice rising. Dan, tell me the truth. Is Nate your son? I just want to hear you admit it. At this point, I'll accept whatever you say. My father, what's the point of holding a grudge against your wife and son? From now on, it's a fresh start. We have to move forward. Aunt Sharon, as long as you treat me and the boy right from now on, I'll forgive you for this little tantrum. Rick let out a hollow, bitter laugh. He stopped asking questions. A flicker of life returned to his eyes. He ignored everyone else, looking only at Nate, as if he were his last hope. Nate, you still accept me as your father, right? Nate's patience had worn thin. I'm still calling you Dad, aren't I? What more do you want? Rick nodded eagerly. Good. You're all I have left now. I'll come home with you. My father, Rick, you finally see sense. You should have thought this way from the start. Go get cleaned up at the bathhouse, then charge your phone. You're a grown man, acting like a child, disappearing like that. The group, now surrounding Rick, headed towards the local public bathhouse. They looked, for a moment, like a happy family. I wonder how long that would last. Rick's mind was clearly broken. He had staked his entire existence on Nate. If I were to add a little more fuel to the fire right now, I couldn't imagine what he might do. I opened the Blackwood Creek Community Facebook group. I posted the photo of Rick by the dumpster, along with the picture of the DNA test. I added a caption, I'm so sorry to everyone in town. My family has brought shame on our community. It turns out my cousin Nate is my father's illegitimate son. My uncle Rick has had a complete mental breakdown because of it, and we just found him. To all our friends and neighbors, if you see him, please don't mention that Nate is not his son. I'm worried it will make his condition worse. Thank you all for your understanding. It was like throwing a grenade into a crowded room. The post exploded. The hundreds of people in the group went into a frenzy. My phone started blowing up with notifications. What's this? Nate is Dan North's kid? I knew it. I told you all, but you wouldn't listen. I always said he looked nothing like Rick. Oh, please. If you ask me, Nate looks exactly like Dale. Someone needs to call them and find out what's really going on. His wife is a looker, and he was never paying attention. I'm not surprised this happened. In a small town like this, where gossip was the main form of entertainment, a bombshell like this was a godsend. The news would spread like wildfire. Soon, the whole town would know. And then, the real show would begin. After Rick finished at the bathhouse, the group emerged. Everyone but Rick, whose phone was dead, had a dark look on their face and was fielding call after call. Who told you that? You can't just spread rumors like that. There's no proof. What? You have evidence. That picture of the DNA test is fake. How can you believe such nonsense? I told you, it's not true. When I find out who started this rumor, I'm going to skin them alive. I have to go, my phone's about to die. But, one by one, they were forced to turn off their phones. But it wouldn't matter. Unless they planned on leaving town forever, the rumors would follow them like a shadow, a web they could never escape. That evening, my aunt was excitedly filling me in. Let me tell you, it's not just Blackwood Creek that knows. Our town, and even the folks over in Miller's Ridge, have heard about it. In 3 days, this scandal will have made its way through the entire county. My cousin who lived in Blackwood Creek just called me. She said people were lined up outside the North House, trying to get the scoop. In the end, it was your grandmother who got them to leave. She lay down in the yard and pretended to have a heart attack. That finally made everyone go home. That's how it was in a small town. Life was usually dull. So when a real-life soap opera, complete with a secret love child raised for years, unfolded in their own backyard, it was a major event. The townspeople were consumed by it. The North family's reputation in the community was completely destroyed. I slept soundly that night. The next morning, the moment I opened my eyes and picked up my phone, a strange number called. It was my father, his voice seething with rage. What the hell? I called you dozens of times since last night. Why didn't you answer? I replied calmly. I was sleeping. My phone was on silent. Is there a problem? He paused. Then his anger flared up again. Why did you post the DNA results online? Don't you know you're not supposed to air the family's dirty laundry in public? So he admitted it was dirty laundry. If it was so shameful, why did he do it in the first place? Did he ever think about my deceased mother? Of course, I wasn't going to get into a pointless argument with him. I saw that Uncle Rick was not in his right mind, so I just wanted to let the townspeople know what was going on so they wouldn't upset him further by talking about it. I was just trying to help him. The line was silent for a long moment. Then, my father spoke through gritted teeth. But if you hadn't told everyone, no one would have known. Well, duh. I was afraid they wouldn't know. That's why I did it. Filth like this needed to be exposed to the light of day. I smirked and offered a completely insincere apology. I'm sorry. I didn't think of that. I was just so worried about Uncle Rick that I accidentally let the family secret slip. You're unbelievable. Don't you ever think before you act? My father was furious, but he needed something from me, so he forced himself to calm down. Caleb, I already promised your cousin he could take your place at Stanford. All you have to do is pretend you don't know anything. Once he's successfully enrolled, he'll get a good job and he'll be grateful to you. Meh, no, I'm not repeating a year for him. My father's voice dropped to a low whisper. Caleb, you know the truth now? He's your real brother. How can you turn your back on him? He finally admitted it. Nate was a few months older than me, which meant their affair had been going on for a long time. I felt a surge of anger on behalf of my mother. My voice went cold. My mother only gave birth to one son. He is not my brother. My father hesitated, a hint of shame in his voice. Let's just let the past be the past. There's no point in dwelling on the mistakes of your elders. From now on, let's just be a family and live our lives, okay? A family. After everything they'd put me through in this life and the last, he had the audacity to talk to me about being a family. The shamelessness was astounding. I spoke, my voice devoid of any emotion. Listen to me, Mr. North. I'm going to say this one last time. From this day forward, I am not a member of the North family. I will not be giving up my spot at Stanford, and you should stop deluding yourself into thinking that I will. My absolute refusal must have shattered his last hope. He must have finally realized that I was no longer the blindly obedient son he could manipulate. He was silent for a long time. He didn't mention the Stanford spot again. Instead, he tried to leave the door open for a reconciliation. No matter what, you are a North. You have North blood in your veins. That is a fact you cannot change. You getting into Stanford is a great honor for this family. We should celebrate it properly. I knew what he was getting at. This was all about saving face. He wanted to use my acceptance to Stanford to repair the North family's tattered reputation in the town. Sure, there was a bastard in the family, but that didn't matter. Look, Caleb North got into Stanford. It wouldn't erase the gossip, but it would at least salvage some of their public image. But there was no way I was going to let them have that. A few days later, the news reached my uncle's town. When he heard that the North family was planning a graduation party for me, he was furious. How can those people be so shameless? They wanted your kidney, they wanted your college spot, and after everything that has happened, they still have the nerve to throw you a party. Do they have no conscience? Rick is completely out of his mind, wandering around the old threshing floor behind the hill every day, and no one has even bothered to take him to a doctor. The old threshing floor behind the hill. I quietly finished my dinner and went there by myself. It was the middle of summer, and the threshing floor was deserted. After a bit of searching, I found Uncle Rick next to a small haystack. He was lying with his head in the hay, his hair full of straw. He was clearly not in his right mind. I got closer and heard him muttering to himself. Nate still sees me as his dad. The man who raises you. The man who raises you. It was no wonder he had lost his mind. To live most of your life only to find out that your child isn't yours, and that your wife cheated on you with your own brother. Who could withstand that kind of blow? But I felt no sympathy for him. I opened the video of Nate and me and held the phone up to Rick's face. The video played on a loop. At first, Rick's gaze was unfocused, but the sound of Nate's voice seemed to jolt him. His eyes started to focus on the screen. The man who raises. Nate, you still see me as your dad, right? On the screen, Nate was trying to buddy up to me. The most important thing right now is that we've found each other. Who cares about someone I'm not even related to? Rick jerked as if he'd been electrocuted. His eyes were wide with disbelief as he stared at the phone. He watched the video several times. Then he seemed to come back to himself. His teeth were clenched in rage. What man who raises you? It's all lies. All of it. They all conspired to lie to me. That bitch, that bastard. I'll kill them. I put my phone away and stood up. Rick was awake now. He gave me a complex look, then his expression hardened into one of grim determination, and he walked away. I had reawakened his consciousness, and with it, I had reawakened his hatred. What he would do next would be very interesting to see. Just before I went to sleep, my father called me again. The North family's reputation is in tatters. We're counting on you now, Caleb. Please, I'm begging you. Come back home, just until the party is over. We just need people to see that you still consider yourself a North. Now he was counting on me to save the family's reputation. If he wanted his precious reputation back, let's see what he was willing to pay for it. I gave him my price. I'll come back for $50,000. My father was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with weary disappointment. You've changed, Caleb. You only care about money now. You don't care about family anymore. After everything that had happened, he still had the nerve to talk to me about family. My patience was wearing thin. Are you going to pay me or not? Give me a straight answer. My father let out a defeated sigh. I'll go borrow the money tonight. I'll transfer it to you tomorrow. The next day at noon, I received a $50,000 transfer. I let Uncle Joe know where I was going and headed to the North house. The assets in my brokerage account were growing rapidly. I didn't need the money, but I took great pleasure in adding to the North family's debt. At the North house, my grandmother was waiting for me at the gate. When she saw me, she grabbed my hand affectionately. Our family's great scholar has returned. Let Grandma have a look at you. Have you lost weight? Her kind and loving act was so jarring it was almost disorienting. Who would have thought that just a short while ago? This was the same woman who wouldn't even give me a single piece of meat. A shiver of disgust ran down my spine. I pulled my hand away from hers. I think you have me confused with someone else. I'm not Nate. Her expression faltered. You're the most promising child in this family. We've prepared a new room for you. Come see if you like it. To my surprise, they had given me my cousin's old room. The wardrobe, the bedding, the pillows, everything was brand new. My old room had been small and dark. This one was bright and spacious. They were clearly going to great lengths for this. They must have something big planned. I wondered what kind of sinister plot was waiting for me. At dinner, Uncle Rick still hadn't returned. The whole family was sitting at the table, waiting for me to start eating. A large platter of pot roast was placed right in front of me. The moment I sat down, I saw Nate glaring at me with resentment. I ignored him and was about to take a piece of the pot roast. As the entire family watched me with anticipation, I suddenly put the piece of meat back down. I spoke calmly. Before I came here, I had a talk with my Uncle Joe. If anything happens to me, not only will he make sure you all pay, he'll also go to Stanford and let them know that someone is trying to impersonate me. Hearing this, everyone at the table exchanged disappointed glances. So the food was poisoned. I made a mental note to be on my guard. My father's face darkened. Under my watchful gaze, he quickly took the platter of pot roast and dumped it into the trash can. If you don't want to eat it, then we'll throw it away. Stop making such a fuss. Perhaps smelling the meat, my grandmother's dog, Buddy, came running towards the trash can, its tail wagging. My grandmother's voice was filled with panic. Buddy, no. My father started to get up to stop the dog. I quickly pushed him back down into his chair. Buddy wants some meat. Let him have it. The dog started eating ravenously. As the family watched in horror, it gobbled down several mouthfuls in a matter of seconds. It was too late for anyone to stop it. My grandmother's face went pale. She rushed to the trash can and scooped the dog into her arms. She frantically tried to pry its mouth open, calling its name over and over. Oh, my poor Buddy, why are you so greedy? You can't eat that. Spit it out quickly. But it was too late. The dog started whining and its body began to convulse. Within a few minutes, its legs stiffened and it was dead. The room was silent. Everyone was watching my reaction. My grandmother, clutching the dead dog, burst into tears, her face a mask of grief, as if she had lost a child. She looked at me with pure hatred. It was you. You killed my Buddy. Why are you so evil? This was Rich. They had tried to poison me, but ended up killing their own dog. And now they were calling me evil. Unbelievable. My voice was filled with surprise. Me evil? I didn't put the poison in the food. I didn't throw the meat in the trash. The dog ate it on its own. How is that my fault? Seeing me talk back to my grandmother, my father's face grew grim. If you hadn't stopped me, I could have saved him. Your grandmother raised that dog from puppy. She loved him dearly. Apologize to her right now, and give her the $50,000 as compensation for her loss. I was stunned by his words. You tried to poison me, and now you want me to pay you for your loss. What kind of twisted logic is that? Hearing me say the word poison out loud, everyone at the table looked uncomfortable. Uncle Dale stood up, his face red with anger. Caleb, that's enough. Even if they were wrong, you don't just say things like that out loud. Have you no respect for your elders? Nate chimed in as well. Even though you're my brother, I have to say something. You were in the wrong today. So what if there was poison in the meat? Dad didn't let you eat it, did he? But you just sat there and watched Buddy die. Doesn't your conscience bother you? I looked at him surprised. You're calling him Dad now. Does Uncle Rick know about this? Nate's voice was impatient. He's a complete basket case. He's useless now. Why would I still call him Dad? Why are you even bringing up that piece of trash? Trash. Hearing that word, I smiled, because I could see Uncle Rick standing in the doorway, his eyes fixed on Nate with a cold, murderous gaze. 14. Uncle Rick moved slowly into the room. Well said, Nate. I'm just a useless piece of trash. You ungrateful little... No, you bastard. It looks like you need to be taught a lesson. With that, Rick grabbed Nate and dragged him towards the room he shared with Aunt Sharon. Nate, already weakened by his long illness, was no match for him. He was like a rag doll as Rick pulled him into the room, his cries for help ignored. Click! Rick locked the door from the inside. The rest of the family finally snapped out of their shock. Aunt Sharon pounded on the door. You lay a hand on my son, and I swear, I'm telling you right now, if you don't go out and buy my father 2 bottles of Woodford Reserve, I will never forgive you. The others joined in. Rick, what's gotten into you? You've been gone for 2 days, and you come back like a different person. Open the door. There are better ways to discipline a child. You can't just beat him. What if you seriously hurt him? Your brother's right. Come out here and apologize to Sharon. What kind of man takes his anger out on a child? But there was no response from inside the room. A moment later, the sound of dull thuds and Nate's screams filled the house. Help me. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please don't kill me. Thump. Aunt Sharon, her eyes red with tears, pounded on the door frantically. Please stop. I was wrong. My father and Uncle Dale were in a panic, searching for something to break down the door. Uncle Dale's wife, Carol, stood by, watching coldly. My grandmother, unable to handle the stress, clutched her chest, having a heart attack, and collapsed next to the dog body. The house was in chaos. 10 minutes passed. The door remained locked. My father and Dale, having failed to break it down, ran to the neighbors to borrow tools. Only Aunt Sharon was left, kneeling at the door, sobbing uncontrollably. Nate's screams had faded to whimpers. Finally, A panting Rick opened the door. He grabbed Sharon from the floor, dragged her inside, and locked the door again. The sound of a woman's piercing screams now filled the air. Another 10 minutes passed. Rick, drenched in sweat and breathing heavily, opened the door. He sat down on the sofa, lit a cigarette with a trembling hand, and a look of satisfaction spread across his face. He even gave me a small, knowing smile. I pretended not to see it. By the time my father and Dale returned with tools and a few of the older men from the family, they found Nate and Sharon lying on the floor, beaten nearly unconscious. They said you went crazy and started hitting people. This is pretty bad. What happened? Faced with their questions, Rick was remarkably calm. My wife cheated on me and raised another man's bastard child for years. I disciplined them. What's wrong with that? The old men were taken aback by his frankness. Well, you're not wrong. We heard you had a breakdown, but you seem fine now. As long as you're okay, that's what matters. You hitting your wife and kid is your business. We won't interfere. Just try not to kill anyone. The old men, having no interest in getting involved, exchanged a few more pleasantries and left. My father, seeing that they weren't going to help him, turned to Rick, his voice tight with anger. How could you just admit that Sharon cheated, and that Nate is a bastard? You're ruining the North family's reputation. Rick, is it wrong to call him a bastard? If he's not, then you tell me, who is his real father? My father fell silent and went into the room to check on Nate and Sharon's injuries. 15. Just as Uncle Dale was about to follow him, his wife, Carol, who had been silent this whole time, spoke in a chillingly calm voice. Dale, where do you think you're going? What does any of this have to do with you? And so, the domestic abuse was swept under the rug. For the next few days, for my own safety, I bought my own food from the market and didn't touch anything cooked in the North house. I also made sure to lock my door and windows at night. But even then, I couldn't sleep well. Every night, I could hear screams coming from Rick's room. Aunt Sharon's phone had been taken away, so she had no way to call for help. She was beaten mercilessly. Nate was in even worse shape. He had just gotten out of the hospital and was still recovering. The repeated beatings took a heavy toll on him. It looked like he'd be heading back to the hospital soon. My grandmother had taken her bed and was on a 4-drip all day, unable to do anything. My father tried to stop Rick, but with only one kidney, he was easily winded and no match for his brother. Uncle Dale wanted to help, but Carol kept a close watch on him. Dale, if you get involved in this, I'm taking Dylan and we're leaving. Defeated, he let Carol lead him home. My father had tried calling the police, but after being reprimanded by the family elders, he gave up on that idea. His face grew darker with each passing day. He would occasionally shoot Rick furtive glances. Rick's mental state, on the other hand, seemed to be improving. He had started to enjoy the domestic violence. But his enjoyment was short-lived. A week later, Nate was beaten into a coma and rushed to the hospital. The doctors said he would likely be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. My father could no longer bear it. He took a knife and snuck into Rick's room in the middle of the night. At dawn, he emerged, covered in blood, and went to the police station to turn himself in. The police who examined the body were horrified. This was brutal. He was stabbed dozens of times. They were brothers. What could have caused such a deep hatred? With a murder in the family, it was no longer appropriate to hold a celebration. I returned to my Uncle Joe's house, where he happily began planning my graduation party. My father was in jail, awaiting trial. The legal process would take a long time. I heard that because of the brutality of the crime, he was facing a long sentence. My grandmother, already ill, couldn't handle the sudden turn of events. Her favorite son had been killed by her other son, who was now going to prison. Her grandson was paralyzed. The shock was too much for her. A few days later, she took her own life. Aunt Sharon, with her reputation in tatters, was abandoned by her own family. She was unable to care for Nate on her own. Just when I thought Nate would be left to fend for himself, a piece of news so shocking it almost made me drop my jaw came out. My Uncle Dale stepped up. He was willing to divorce his wife, Carol, to take care of Nate. Furious, Carol exposed everything. It turned out that Nate's biological father wasn't my father at all. It was my Uncle Dale. The story was more twisted than any soap opera. My father had abandoned his own son for Nate. He had given him a kidney, and then, when Rick was beating him, he had murdered his own brother for him. I wondered what his reaction would be when he found out in jail that the boy he had sacrificed everything for was not his son. Would he be consumed by grief or by regret? I contacted Carol and got a copy of the DNA test. I also managed to get some video footage of Dale and Nate together. Just before I left for college, I went to the jail. My father had lost a lot of weight. He looked old and frail. He had to pause to catch his breath after every few steps. I felt nothing. He had brought all of this on himself. My voice was calm. You want to take my kidney to save Nate. When I refused, you gave him your own. Then you killed your own brother for him. Was it worth it? My father's voice was hoarse, but his tone was matter of fact. You wouldn't have died from donating a kidney. I did it because it was my duty as a father. And I killed your uncle to protect my child. What's wrong with that? His duty as a father, to protect his child? I was confused. What about me? You never protected me. You never fulfilled your duty as a father to me. My father's voice was flat. I was with Sharon before I married your mother. But she thought your Uncle Rick was the favorite son, so she left me for him. You know the rest. So that was it. He had always been in love with someone else, so he had treated my mother poorly, often hitting her. And by extension, he had always looked down on me. Now that I understood everything, I had no desire to continue the conversation. I handed him the DNA test results. Look, you gave up everything for Nate, but he's not your son. My father's pupils contracted. His voice was firm. Impossible, but his trembling hands betrayed him. He stared at the report for a long time, as if trying to will the words to change. He kept muttering to himself, Impossible, absolutely impossible. This is a fake. You're just trying to trick me, to make me regret what I've done. I smirked. I took out my phone and played a few video clips for him. Carol. I knew for years that he and her were having an affair. Then I found the DNA test in the house. We had a huge fight, and he finally admitted that Nate was his son. There were also videos of Dale and Sharon. After watching the videos, my father was silent for a long time. His expression twisted and contorted several times before he finally forced himself into a state of calm. Thank you for coming to see me. You can go now. You don't need to come back. Study hard and visit your mother's grave often. I had achieved my goal. I turned and left. On the day I arrived at Stanford, I got a call from my Uncle Joe. My father had committed suicide in jail. The official report said he had taken his own life out of guilt. But I knew the truth. He had died of regret. It was better this way. I could finally let go. The weight of 2 lifetimes of oppression, all the pain and suffering, was finally gone, carried away by the wind. I looked up at the towering gates of Stanford University. My own beautiful life was just beginning.